Hello everyone and welcome to RockSim Live with me. I'm Michelle. I'm the office manager here at Apogee, and Tim is at NARAM this weekend, or he's probably there by now, but he'll just be here there for the weekend. So if you're going to be at NARAM this weekend, swing by, find Tim, say hi. He will probably be at the competition range for a lot of the weekend. His daughter is actually competing, so he will be keeping an eye on that and maybe helping out. But he has some free stickers for everybody. Well, some free stickers, so first come, first serve. And he'll just be there Saturday and Sunday. So try and find him if you can and say hi. Let him know you tuned into the RockSim Live today. He's always excited to hear people. Yeah, I started a minute late, so I always give people just an extra minute to tune in, plus there's all the tech stuff that goes into starting, so, but yeah, so, do my little pop out here. There's all sorts of bells and whistles I can pop in here. So today I have no questions that have been emailed in this week, so I came up with a couple things, fun things we could try to do today, but definitely put your questions in the chat. I'll keep an eye out for that. I've seen a couple come in already that we can go over, and then I'll talk for a bit, and if that's it, we'll just be done a little early today. But I know you guys are all RockSim people, so we'll try and have a little bit of fun today. And definitely check in and just say where you're from, and it's cool to see everybody. We always like having people we got a lot of international people today. There. Yeah, there's no stickers for the stickers for the chat. It's been that kind of week. Stickers for the chat. So sorry about that. But we will have stickers probably for sale starting next week too. The stickers Tim has were ones that I made and then realized they were the wrong size, so that's why we've got those. So to start, Carlos had asked a couple questions about RockSim installation software on the computer. He said, is the latest RockSim version working on Mac Big Sur, and any general upgrade hints that you wish we knew? So RockSim 10 is absolutely working on Big Sur. RockSim Pro works on Big Sur, but I don't remember if the 3D visualizer, there's a freeze bug they're trying to find, so I think it's still not working, the 3D visualizer, which is like the launch visualizer, but it's actually on the desktop for that. On Big Sur, I'm running Big Sur, so believe me, I have the same problems you do with that. So I'm sort of the crash test dummy that we use for testing it on there. So yeah, but it is absolutely, I'm using RockSim here. This is RockSim 10 on Big Sur. So it should be working fine. I haven't noticed any issues with that. We run Macs in our building, so we have a lot of different operating systems with the older computers and the newer ones, and we try and test it on all of them. And the older operating systems are now getting a little rough, mostly with the registration software. But RockSim itself runs fine with that. We were kind of quiet about it, so a while back, Tim probably mentioned it, there was a beta release of the newer version 10.4, and we released it and then discovered that the Mac version didn't work. It has to do with the Mac licensing. Like Apple basically makes you license the software through them now. So yeah, I clicked on the wrong one. There's two different links here. So download the new software. Oh, I swear that there's a page with the link on it. And it will take me 15 times to figure out which one it is. But anyways, sorry. So we released it for Windows because we had to backtrack on the Mac. The Mac version is now working, and so we posted that up here. So if you follow the directions here to get the newest update, there we go. That's where it is. It's down here. the download links to get it. So if you go to the home page, sorry, you're not looking at my screen. I'm sorry, I'm having all sorts of brain problems today. It's not technical problems, it's operator problems. So on the Apogee homepage, there is down here, there's the note about the update now to 10.4, and then there's 10.4 beta version. So if you click here to download the links, it will take you to this page. So we had released the Windows version maybe a month ago now, maybe a little longer, and then the Mac version we just put up maybe a week ago. Note that it is only, we're officially saying it's only available with OS 10 or later, so Catalina or later. Again, that has to do with the registration software. We're finding people who are running older operating systems, it's timing out. That's third-party software, that's not ours, so there's nothing we can do about that. And generally all software is going to the point where they want you to be on the new 64-bit, type of Mac. So you can, it's still in beta release officially, so there's a couple bugs we're working on right now on it, so it's not 100% perfect, but part of it is that you guys can test it out and see what's going on if you have any problems. So Carlos, if you have problems with Big Sur, let us know for that. Yeah, so you can get, so this is version 10.4.04 DMG. You can see, I'm pointing with my finger down. When I hover over the link, it'll say down in this bottom left corner, which you can't see. It'll say the version. So if you ever need to know where a link goes, there we go. You can see that little blue box in the bottom left corner. It says which version it is. So you can check your RockSim and check it against these. The Windows is 4.02. And the only reason that Mac's later is because we had to do some Mac specific changes for that. So yeah, so if you want to get the most current version that we have available, this is where you can go. If you were to buy RockSim now and get it, you'd actually get this version too. We have just not officially done an update because we actually have some more, hopefully, updates coming, which Carlos also asked about. But basically right now we're just bug squashing. We're really trying to get some bugs fixed, and it's like literally today there's an issue. I can show you probably. Just open up a Rocket. If you take your fins, I don't know why I'm showing you the things that don't work right on RockSim, but I don't know if I can move this over or not. So if you take the fins, oh, and it's going to work here. Huh. Okay, well, it's working on this one. It's one of those things that keeps fixing and breaking, fixing and breaking. But there is a bug where the fins, instead of conforming to the curve of the nose cone, like it does here, it's doing them straight and then doing weird things. So she fixed that. The programmer that was working on this problem fixed this today, but then it broke a fix for a different problem that we had already fixed. So it's just that's the problem with software, is you can, try and fix a bug, and when you fix that bug, you break another thing. So we're just trying to mostly do that. I did, for those of you who were here or have watched the last one, RockSim Live I did a couple weeks ago, there were two things that we discovered where you could right click and show hide a mass object, and they had requested to know if it's on or off, because there's no way to know except for looking at the actual mass. And then there was a second mass object one that I now can't remember that Mark Sell had asked about. Anyways, I submitted those both for bug fixes, or not bug, feature requests is what we call those, because nothing's broken. It's just we'd like something better. So those are in the works. I don't know if they'll be in the next build or not, just because we're working on whatever thing pops up next. So yeah. So just keep an eye out. Usually we announce it this Mac release. We did a little sneakily, just because every time I'm ready to release one, they have a new build for us to test. So we finally just sucked it up and released one. So we had a new 10.4 update for Mac there. Okay, so Clint Browning asks, when the bottom kicks out on a launch, does that mean my rod is a little short, but it flies straight after that? So he's talking about in RockSim. I shouldn't have closed that all the way. I'm having a weird issue with my Chrome today, too. So in RockSim, if I go to fly my rocket, let's see what we want to do. So I just have that Apogee Aspire here. So I'm going to choose an engine. This keeps popping up on my other monitor. And I'm going to intentionally choose a really small engine. Let's pick something here. Okay, so I just went and loaded my engine, and then I'm going to set my launch rod at 36 inches, so 3 feet. The Aspire is basically 30 inches long, so it's essentially 3 feet already. So, okay, so we're going to launch this. Oh, and click the 2D launch profile. I'm going a little fast. I'm assuming most of you are experts at RockSim, so if anything I do is a little too fast or confusing, or you don't know what I did, let me know and we'll go over it. So then we start with the play. So you can see what he's talking about there. It did that little wiggle. So it starts to go up, and then that back end just like kicks out to the right. A little bit of a jiggle. So he asks if the launch rod's too short. And that is one possibility. Basically what it means is when your rocket leaves the launch rod, it needs to be going fast enough to be straight, going straight. So the rule of thumb is around 30 miles per hour, 32 miles per hour, 32 feet per second, which is not 30 miles per hour or 32 miles per hour, but kind of that, I think it's 29 or 28, but somewhere around that 30 miles per hour, feet per second. I don't know what that is in meters, I'm sorry. But that's your kind of general rule of thumb. At that speed, if it's going up and a breeze hits it, and it will correct itself. If it's going too slow, that's when you start getting spinning. So if your launch rod's really short, it potentially could go unstable, and then it could hurt somebody. So ways to correct for that jiggle are, yes, a longer launch rod. So if we go to prepare for launch and we make our launch rod say 60 inches, and so 5 feet, and again that would be 2.5-ish meters. No, that's not right. 1.5-ish meters. Now when we run this, so it still does a little bit of a jiggle. The other thing you can do is get a more powerful motor. I picked, the Aspire normally flies on a 29 millimeter motor, like an F, and I picked a B4. So if I choose, say, an F motor, the F10 is a really cool motor to launch on because it will go a mile high, 5,000 feet, almost 6,000 feet. So that's 2,000 meters, right? Just under. So if we fly this one now, notice there's no kick there. So it just went straight up because it was powerful enough. So basically what it means is that the combination of motor and launch rod isn't powerful enough to get it going fast enough. And the way you can check that is that 32 miles per hour, or what I was saying, what you want is velocity at launch guide departure, and it's not a default for the like regular flight simulations. I think it might be a default on the recommended motor chart, but all you need to do is right click on the headers, click on organize columns, and then velocity at launch guide departure, which I guess I have on. So that's what you want to look at. So since I'm in miles per hour, I want to be somewhere around 30, 32. And so like these ones, it's saying 34. So you're at the low end of that. Then the third thing that applies to that jiggle, Clint, is did wind hit it? If it's a really calm day, even if your rocket's a little unstable, it might fly fine. Like even if your rocket's really stable, it could potentially fly fine if nothing goes wrong. The stability has to do with what happens if something hits it, basically not going in the direction of flight. And so if there's wind, so if I go to check, so I prepare for launch and I click on my launch conditions, I've got an 8 mile per hour wind. That's probably why I've got the jiggle, is you got this wimpy little motor and then the wind hit it. And so even though it was going fast enough on the launch ride, you're getting a bit of jiggle. The other thing about the jiggle is that the whole point of the stability, if your rocket is overstable, so it's not unstable in this case, is what I mean by that, the point is that your rocket can correct. So if you have a rocket that's going up, and go ahead and launch this one again. This was the jiggly one. It's going up. When the wind hits it, if it's stable, what it means is those fins are big enough, strong enough, whatever, to correct for that. So my rocket's going up and the wind hits it and it goes, oh, I gotta go, the wind wants it to go this way, so it's correcting the opposite way. The angle of attack is what that's called. So it's correcting for it. So the jiggle or the angling doesn't actually mean that it's unstable, it's unsafe. It might just mean it's correcting, which is what the fins are supposed to do. Because if you didn't need that, then you could fly rockets without fins, like the space shuttle that has all the gimbals and things. That's the whole point of the fins, is to correct when something cross breeze or whatever, thermal, anything that causes the rocket to try and deviate from that up and down. The whole point of the fins is to steer the rocket. So a jiggle can be okay because it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. So the jiggle doesn't actually mean anything really concerning. What you'll get instead, I don't know if I can make this rocket do it or not. We're gonna pick a really small motor. Or actually, no, what I need to do is I need to change my design so that my rocket, because my rocket right now is 3.65 overstable. So I need to move my center of gravity. We are going to we're going to intentionally make this rocket unstable. So we're going to add like 10 grams of mass. Oh. This is a really stable rocket. I added 100 grams and it's still a margin of 1. 500 grams. This isn't going to be, I'm going to have to find a motor that can actually launch this. Okay. Let's choose our B. We'll see if that'll even launch it. Maybe too heavy to even get it off the ground, but when a rocket actually goes unstable, yeah, it's too heavy to get off the pad with the B. Okay, so load engine. Oh, come on. Let's see if it'll do it. Oh, it's still not powerful enough. Oh, there we go. Yes, it's exactly what I wanted. This is what happens when a rocket is unstable. Very unstable. Watch the rocket. It's just doing cartwheels. Whee! So basically what this means in this case is that your fins weren't able to correct for the wind. They weren't able to do that jiggle and get it back on track. So it's sort of like when you live somewhere where there's icy roads or sandy roads and your car starts to slide and you steer into the skid, that's exactly what your rocket's doing. But in this case, this rocket is sliding into the curb, or whatever, because it just can't correct for the amount of unstable. So this is what you're looking for when you're looking at that. The jiggle is actually okay, as long as you don't get it, or the jiggle should be okay. Obviously then you want to make sure everything else is okay, that your velocity at launch guide departure is the right speed, check your wind settings, check your launch guide length. But if you ever need to compensate for a rocket that's having trouble with stability leaving the launch rod, your options are longer launch rod, more powerful motor. You can also do things like make it more stable by like bigger fins, lengthening the rocket, adding nose weight, so that, what I did was I added the weight back here because you want your center of gravity to be in front of your center of pressure. So those are all quick and easy ways to compensate for a rocket that's not stable when it's leaving the launch rod. So let's see, we've got lots of comments here. So yeah, Johannes, that's answered kind of what I was just saying there. And he's doing my math for me. So 30 miles per hour is 13.41 meters per second. Thank you. Yeah, Clint says he uses an F-15 on this rocket. That's another good one. The Aspire is really cool because it's so lightweight, but it's also, so you can use really small, like kind of wimpy, like the F-15 motor normally, like it's a really wimpy motor for 29 millimeter, and it struggles to lift normal, like mid-power rockets pretty often. But this Aspire is great because it's so lightweight. You can throw all sorts of stuff in there and have fun. Like we threw a B-44 in there, which for a 29 millimeter rocket is very small, and it still actually worked just fine. So that's cool. Okay, so Johannes says, last year we had a rocket doing that. We used a bit too low for thrust on a 3 cluster, and the rocket went ballistic. And then the ejection charge failed. So yeah, those are always fun things. So he was using, a wind gust. Yeah, the wind gust, really, the wind, you can't predict the wind. It's going to gust at the worst time. It always happens. It's the worst time that it's going to hit. So Clint says it flies straight up after the kick, but it's always windy where I launch. So, but yeah, it's windy here too. It is always windy here. And so that's why Tim simulates, if you look at like the recommended motors or in any of his, he uses an 8 mile per hour wind because that's a pretty good average. It's actually a lot of times more windy than that here, but it's a good kind of, once you get over 10, it's questionable whether you should be launching anyways. But in places where it's windy, you'd never launch. So it's all kind of figuring out what's safe and what's okay with that. Carlos asks, sometimes the arrow appears during a simulation, sometimes they do not. Why? So the simulation in the 2D flight profile, it's very weird. I don't know why it's, there we go. So in this case, is this one going to do it? This is the one where the rocket was stable. So we are unstable. So let me load this engine in there. Oh, I just reran this one. What am I doing? So as it's spinning, you can see that red arrow popping up. And then there's the little green, it's a little hard to see, but there's a green like curve mark right here too, as well. So the arrows and the lines have to do with the different forces on the rocket, and you can turn those on and off, and see kind of what they all are. If you go into this, the 2D flight profile, you go into preferences, and this is where you can set a bunch of preferences for this screen. So if you ever want to change this background, you don't want this blue trees or whatever, you can change that. You can change the like this is where the background image is. It comes with some stock ones, so we're using tree field right now. Comes with green hills, Martian landscape. You want to launch your rocket on Mars, you can change that. You can use your own designs too, if you've got a nice pretty image. So, sorry, the flight track, this shows the different flight indicators. You can change the colors. So the primary flight track and boosters if you've got a multi-stage rocket. The diameter, the dots, I don't know if you saw the dots, and then the dots, how far apart they are. Ruler, you can show the ruler at the bottom. You can see these yellow rulers, so you can change that. Vector overlay, so this is where the arrows come into play. So right now that red was the thrust, where it's like the thrust line. And then there's the drag color, gravity, wind, torque vector. So, and then you can have the vectors display with scaling, without scaling. It just depends on, the different ways it shows different things, and you can play with the line thickness, and if you want the smoke on or off, what color you want the smoke. And then the rocket image, those are all in the preferences. And the rocket image is, like right now, this is just that generic little like yellow, like little tiny rocket. I can actually run it so that it will make the rocket look like the Aspire. So if I want this picture to show up instead, I can actually run, they're called Sprite Files. And if you're old enough, you may remember the way that like Disney used to make cartoons, where they would have the cells and they would draw each image and then they would move it and draw the image and then move it and draw the image, and they would take pictures of every single one of those, or like the little flip books where you draw the little stick figure that moved. That's what it's doing basically, is it's taking pictures of the rocket in every different position that it could be in, and then it runs, and then it re-renders your 2D flight profile with that. See, now I've got Mars. I'm not going to do that because it takes a little while, and it makes like 1,000, no, not 1,000. It makes a lot of images. It takes up a lot of space. So if you want to do that, if you check the box, I highly recommend you make a folder and have it go into the folder, because if it goes to your desktop, which I think is the default, your desktop will have files on top of files on top of files of the sprites. I like to do it, it's fun, but it does take up some space on your computer, so that's when the launch visualizer is a really good option, because you don't have to worry about doing that. So yeah, so the vector overlays show that. So if I run the simulation again, Carlos, you can see the thrust line. So these are the different forces. So it's spinning to the left, so you've got these little green left arrows, and then the thrust force is going that way as it's spinning. So that's what those are. Those different lines are for that. And I'm not sure exactly why they don't always show up. Like, there's no thrust line there, but it shows up when it starts to pivot. Yeah, because they're all kind of on. So it might be the uniform scaling issue. I'm not sure. And then for that. But that's what those arrows mean, is they're your forces on your rocket, basically. Okay, Arc Bolter says, in the launch visualizer, when I double click one of the simulation results to see the simulation detail pop-up screen, there are issues with incorrect unit labels or values. There are more, but here are 3 issues of mine. I know they've worked on some of those. They've been working on some of those issues. And that's one of those things too, where they, I don't know why this is not working today. They fix it and then somehow it reverts again, kind of. And I'm not sure why. But so the launch visualizer, if you're not familiar with it, is RockSim.com, and it's that little cartoon that we were watching in RockSim, the RockSim program, where we were looking at those arrows spinning. This is like a 3D version of that. So you can go to RockSim.com and, you can play with this without even logging in, or you can create a free login account and you can upload your design files. So you can add that Aspire to it, or use the default ones. And then there is a paid version which unlocks all the features. Some of these things are locked. I'm on the paid version right now, so they're all unlocked, but some of these are locked if you're on the free version. So I'm going to choose my Aspire. This is the rocket we were doing in RockSim, although the mass is messed up because we played with that a couple weeks ago when I did RockSim Live. But see here, I didn't have to run any Sprite Files or do anything. It automatically just pulls the picture for it. So, okay, let's run a simulation. So the launch site score, this is our local, semi-local club down in Pueblo. So it's about an hour, about 45 minutes from here. And this is, they have a lot of land, so we fly there a lot. The one in town flies at like a school, so they're pretty limited in what can be flown. Launch angles and all that, weather. Loading a motor, so I will choose an engine here. And then those are just our flight events. This comes with a streamer. Just shoot it off at max ejection delay, so we'll go ahead and launch this. So I went really fast in there too, but okay. So this is our simulation. So I'll go ahead and run this, and it's zoomed in pretty close so you can see the rocket. But if I zoom out, ooh, that's way out. You can see it going up, and here is a close-up of the rocket centered on it. If you zoom out, you can see the streamer coming down. And then it'll drift down back to the launch site. Just gonna fast forward because it's gonna drift for a while since it's the Aspire and it goes fast. Okay, so the first thing, when I double click on one of the simulation results to see the simulation detail pop-up screen, there are issues with incorrect unit labels and values. So, I am currently in millimeters, or in meters, all the different meters, so so we're looking at the wind table section. It's approximately, okay. So we'll take a look at these and see. He's talking about the wind tables. So you can make wind tables for your simulation. So it's something that most people generally don't mess with. It's just overkill if you're just wanting to throw a motor in a rocket and fly it. What you can do is you can actually set the wind direction, speed at different altitudes. So if if you have some equipment where you can measure the wind speed and the direction, especially different if you've got a weather balloon and you're measuring different things, you can actually build a wind table. So you do that in the launch visualizer by going to the weather and then the wind model. Click on variable wind direction, and then I don't have any wind table saved, so this would be new wind table. And then you click on the button to add. So it starts at the ground level here. So you'll put in your altitude above sea level. So just realize this is sea level, not ground level. So like our launch site here is like It's a little less in Pueblo, I think, but it's like 6,000 feet. It's like 2,000 meters. So that's technically ground level. And the wind direction, this is a compass, so we'll just put 90. And the wind velocity, so we'll put 10 miles per hour because that's what he said he did. Well, one thing that could be going on is, why did I do that? I don't know why it renumbered these. Okay, so put in my random wind tables. And my motor. Watch. Okay. Wind table. I need to change my units because I'm now in. So change your units. We'll go up here, click user dashboard, and oh no, I haven't played with this for a while, so this might be in the preferences in a different area, actually. Let's go back to our simulation screen. Nope. I don't remember how to change the units. Units, there we go. I knew it was somewhere. So click on units, and I'm going to change it to feet, miles per hour, just because that's what wait for a second. Because I'm a crazy American who doesn't use dimensions that make sense. Okay, so we put in 10 miles per hour for the wind table. 10 miles per hour report shows, which is 3 miles per hour. Because one thing I'm thinking of is the wind information, that these are in meters still, because we started at 6,000 feet. So, so yeah, okay, I'll have them look into it and see. They fixed this one a couple times, but I think sometimes when they push other changes, they accidentally revert some of the other ones. So there's definitely some unit issue things going on, because this one had some issues. I guess the wind was too much for that. I just did a steady wind at 10 mile per hour in the input. Landing data section always says crash landing. Oh, that's probably a fixed value. It's not set to that. Yeah, okay. I will write these down and report them so they can look at them. They're pretty good about fixing things like that, as long as it's something that's easy, that they know what's going on. So that could be fixed even as of next week with that. But I'll play with that some and send them some details on that. But yeah, if you guys ever find anything like that, you find something that's weird, let us know. Sometimes it can be operator error like I've been having today, and it's just confusing, or whatever. And sometimes it can be that the code is just messed up. Software is fun, as we all know, for it. But we love getting feedback and knowing how things are working and not with it. I mean, hopefully it works and it doesn't not work, but yeah, for that. Yes. Okay, so that's all the questions we have in the chat so far. So yes, he's talking. Johannes is talking about our crazy American measuring methods. So yeah, so what I prepared a little bit to talk about, if we had no other questions, is I was going to show you guys, I've done this before, but it was really early days. For your launch sites, you can add your own custom launch sites, and it's always fun to do launch sites that you can't launch a rocket out for real, whether it's your backyard, and or somewhere fun. So I actually went in and, oops, I didn't want to save this. It's already saved. I saved a couple of fun ones. So I did the Eiffel Tower. And the Eiffel Tower is funny. So the way the maps work, it's actually, the world is a funny place. You think in this day and age you can do things like maps really easily, but the way the maps actually work is we get a topographical map, so that shows like mountains and valleys and everything, and then they take the photos of the Earth and they just slap the photos on top. So what happens is, if it's a topological, if it's a geographical type thing, the 3D kind of works okay, but if it's something that doesn't have a topographical value, it doesn't show, and then it's a 2D picture anyways, but it doesn't show in 3D. So this is the Eiffel Tower here, and what it looks like, what it is basically, is like the shadow of the Eiffel Tower, because it can't show the 3D tower sticking up, and there's no topographical information, you know, that, because it's not a natural thing. So they put the Eiffel Tower from the picture on top, so it looks really funny. But so this is the Eiffel Tower. So I was launching rockets from the Eiffel Tower earlier, so I chose that one. And here, I mean, you can just see this picture. The flight simulation's not super exciting too, because the same problem. It's do our F10, because it's a good one. And let me put my weather back to normal, because so that it actually flies. So this one, so we'll go ahead and launch it. And right now we're zoomed, oops, okay, on centered my rocket, so I gotta go back and recenter it. Home. Clicking on all the things. Oh, you know what I did, because I was playing with different altitudes. One thing when you choose your launch site, oh no, that looks okay. I was playing with launch sites at different altitudes, and I kept forgetting to change the altitude of ground level. So I was here in Colorado, and then I was in Paris, France, but I was still at 6,000 feet, and it really didn't like that there. So the rocket might be underground, because it might actually be a little, go ahead and fly it. Here we go. So this is what it would look like if you were flying a rocket from the Eiffel Tower, not the top of the Eiffel Tower, from the ground, but you can see the sun there. So just kind of fun. Like, this is one of the things about the launch visualizer. You know, there's the serious aspects of, you know, Arc Boulder was putting in his wind tables and like all the different parameters, and you want to know exactly how your rocket's going to fly or whatever. And that's one very cool, useful way to use the launch visualizer. And then there's the goof off method. And that's like, I wonder what it would look like if I launched a rocket from the Eiffel Tower, and like where it would land. And this is the fun other side of it, is just doing the things that you can't do. That's one of our kind of marketing approaches, is, you know, launch a rocket that you couldn't launch in real life, whether it's a crazy rocket or from a crazy location. So yeah, that's the Eiffel Tower. Like I said, it's kind of weird because it's got that flat. So another location that I did is the Great Sphinx of Giza. This one is also kind of weird because it's the same kind of flattened thing, but you can see it better. Takes a minute to load. So you can see that's the Sphinx there. kind of squashed. But she's there. So I'm gonna go and I'm gonna load my engine from last time. And then we are going to launch it. And this time it will load my, and this one, it's better if it's zoomed out too. So this is launching from like the back of the Sphinx too. So. There's a very, very loud car driving past us. The whole building is shaking, if you can hear that. So yeah, so you can just see what it's like. And then because those are, neither one of those are exactly geographical locations, I went to, so we're in Colorado Springs, Colorado, and in our city, or kind of right outside the city, is Pikes Peak, which is a mountain. It's one of the 14,000 foot mountains, one of the, however many there are now, 32. Weirdly, the number keeps changing because mountains are getting taller or shorter-ish. So this launch site is actually at 14,000 feet elevation, which would be like 4,500 meters-ish, like 4,300, I don't know. I'm not good at math when it gets to all those extra zeros. But yeah, so I launched from there too, and that's kind of fun. There's a lot of forest, so really what you're seeing is just the forest. There's actually the road because you can drive up to the top of Pikes Peak. Driving down's fun. Hopefully you have good brakes on your car because the city is 8,000 feet below it, so that's quite a hike up. Well, it's probably more than that down at the base, but so you can kind of see our rocket is spiraling here. It's unstable because this is the one without mass that I did last time. You can see it kind of flying on the mountain, so it's kind of neat too. And the last location I had pre-set up was our building. Oh, and then I was going to show you guys. So I added our building here. So this is like if we launched from our parking lot. But if I zoom in, that's not in, Michelle. Plus is in. The location's actually our neighbor's parking lot. So then I tweaked the GPS coordinates. So I have two Apogee components locations. So this one, oh my gosh, this moved. Oh, the dot's moving as I move the map. That's interesting. That's kind of fun. When I looked at it earlier, this is our parking lot here. That's our building. So I was launching from there. So I was having fun launching there. But if you do like I did where you can't edit launch sites, there's not a way to edit them. So I had to add it again. So if you need to delete a launch site, or if you make a win table, like we were kind of doing before, and you need to edit or delete a win table, these are actually stored in your profile user dashboard, and then this little table here for data. So your saved win tables would be here, your saved launch sites are here. So I have the two Apogee components, so I can just highlight and delete. So you had fun, you flew from the Eiffel Tower, you were like, woo, and then you're like, I don't want to do this ever again. You can come here and delete it out. You don't actually have to save them too. You can just plug in the GPS coordinates. And all you need to do is Google GPS coordinates of a site, and you will find them. One thing that this does, that like if you Google anything in the Western Hemisphere or the Southern Hemisphere, you need to put in as negatives. Instead of, if you look up the GPS coordinates, it'll say east or west. So if you see west or south, they'll need to be negative. Otherwise, if you take out the negative, this same location, but with east instead of west, is in China. And I only make this mistake occasionally, so often. It's taking a minute to load. There. So I'm in kind of like a desert area of China. So make sure your negatives are in there so your GPS locations are correct. Oh, and then the other feature that they added, I don't know if Tim talked about it last week, they just made it live, and then we were having some problems with it, and supposedly it's fixed now. But you could always look at the different clubs. So say you've got you're going to visit somewhere and you want to launch rockets and you want to see if there's a club. This map will show all the clubs, but now you can actually click on one and it will tell you the club's name, so you don't have to like try and figure out which club is where. So they have the different ones, so you can click on those now, which is cool. So that's a new feature that's come live in the last week or two for that. Okay. Carlos K says, I find 3 wind table values useful. Low wind from the ground to tree height, a bit stronger from treetop to the nearest upwind mountain tree height, and fast above that. And that's kind of how wind, I think, generally goes. There's kind of the ground, especially if you're in any sort of valley or anywhere that's protected, the wind's different than it is, all you have to do is like let go of a balloon or fly a kite, and you know that the wind acts differently as soon as it gets above tree line or above house line or wherever. And then when you get higher, then you get, especially if you get thermals and the heat and stuff like that as well. Johannes says, was thinking on a question. So he's building a rocket. He did an open rocket, a 7 cluster with 4 groups of motor tubes, and can load 4 types of engine. So I'm not sure what your question is exactly, other than, yes, that sounds very nasty to build. And the simulation software should work for some of those, but there's a point at which it just gets a little insane. So a 7 cluster, that's a lot of motors. The ultimate file, and if you want to add a file, so he's talking about the Lock Ultimate file. The Lock Ultimate is not a default, demo design in here, so you can upload the file. Any kits we sell, or pretty much any kit we sell on our website, has the RockSim file, and you don't even need RockSim. You just go to the kit page, and you can click on RockSim file, or just scroll down and click on the picture or the link, and it will give you the RockSim file. Then I go back to the launch visualizer and I click on upload a new design. We'll call this the Lock Ultimate, and then I will browse to find my file, which probably went to my download folder here. Yeah. And then I upload it. Uh-oh, failed to upload design. That's no good. Wonder why that didn't work. Oh, well, the zip should work. Let me try unzipping it. It is unzipped. I just grabbed the zip one. I think it downloaded and unzipped at the same time. Here, let's try the RKT directly. Upload. Does not like that one. I'm not sure why. Let's try it in RockSim. Make sure there's nothing wrong with the file. It may be that it's just got too many motor mounts and it's like, sorry, no. So yeah, it works okay in RockSim. So I'll have to check on that and see why. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this has 7 motors in it. And that may be the problem, is that there's a max amount of motors that the launch visualizer can just handle for it. Yeah, we need to get into our legal limits, so that's why, yeah, that would be pushing it with that many motors, for that, what's legal and what's not, or getting waivers to make sure you're covered for that type of altitude. So I'm writing down the lock ultimate and the unit issues for the launch visualizer. So afterwards I can submit those. We are only allowed to store motors less than 30 grams of propellant, but are allowed to have up to 125 grams of propellant in a rocket. Yeah, so trying to make that work. The rules are funny that way, aren't they? Like, you can store maybe as many motors as you want, or to a limit, but they can only be under 30 grams. But if you have 230 grams, why can't you have 160 gram, you know? It just, the arbitrariness of the rules sometimes are just funny, or, you know, 31 grams versus 30. It just, it's always hard explaining that to new people to the hobby, to explain why some motors have to go hazmat, some don't, why, you know, what's high power, what's low power, what's an A motor, what's a B motor. I mean, at some point somebody just had to say A is this to this, B is this to this. And so sometimes it's kind of funny for that. So the other thing I was going to show was, real quick, because we got a couple minutes left. If you're trying to figure out how to do something in the launch visualizer and you're not sure, we do have this help menu. We're actually working on making some changes to it to make it even more user-friendly. Right now it opens up in a second tab. In the future, hopefully it'll be like a side thing, so you can be looking at it and looking at this at the same time. What I just do is I separate it out so I can be, you know, half a screen and half a screen if I need help. I do this a lot. Or this is when 2 monitors comes in handy if you have that. But the help's here, and then we've got all these different, it's basically all the different tabs. So select rocket motor is select rocket, launch site. So there's a tab for each, there's a help for each one of these tabs, and it goes through each, how to select a rocket design. Sorry. How to upload a new rocket design. The launch site, it goes through each of these fields for that. So we've, you know, listed out what everything is, how to fix it. If you find something on here that doesn't make sense, that doesn't explain it well enough, something's missing. We did this at the very beginning, so it's possible. In fact, I'm pretty sure that I don't know if they updated it. I told them they needed to, but the My Data tab now has the ability to rerun, delete, load engine, and edit. See, yeah, so this also had pop-ups before, and now the pop-ups are missing for these. Not pop-ups, but like hover text is missing. So every time they upload something, you know, they revert something else. These are all, some of these are, the load engine and the edit is new, so I don't know if that got updated here. Yeah, see, this still has the old ones. So if you come across anything in the help that needs work, is missing something, is wrong, you think is wrong, whatever, I went through these like 5 times, so hopefully they're right. But yeah, there should be help for everything. So like figuring out how to change the units. I always forget where those are located. And so that one always takes me a bit. That would be listed here. If you go to the flight event or the My Data tab, I'll show you the units there. Yeah. Apparently it's nap time. So, yeah. So that's all the questions we have for today. That's all I have to talk about today. We managed to fill the whole hour, so thank you for asking questions. I love people ask questions. Our worst nightmares are like coming to these and having no questions and nobody asked questions. I was frantically, that's where I came up with my Eiffel Tower for launching, because I was like, what am I going to talk about today? And if you have any questions earlier on, you can submit them via email on the Apogee site. You can just go to the contact form up here, the top of the page, contact form, and submit your question. You know, for RockSim Live, can you talk about, if you're watching, you know, even if you watch them later and you're not going to be there live, we do store them all. They're all stored. You can go on the homepage and click on the RockSim Training Live, or they're in the menu too under How to and Guides Software, RockSim Training Live. And we list every single episode is here with the YouTube link, and then what we talked about. Brendan, one of our front office people, he comes in every Monday and he goes through and he writes this up for you guys so that you have these timestamps and things, so you can go, hey, I have a question about, I don't remember how to change my units. Michelle mentioned, and just do a find on the page and type in units. And you can see somebody talked about that back in April, and this is in RockSim, but in September too. So this is really handy to use. We talk about things over and over, so there'll be a couple different, times it's been talked about, but super helpful with everything. Carlos says when the launch visualizer just came out, he launched an avion from the top of the Millennium Falcon at Disneyland. See, you couldn't do that in real life. They'd arrest you for that. But with the launch visualizer, you can play with fun stuff like that. I haven't thought about Disneyland. I'll have to try that one. That sounds like fun. With all the different rides and things, that's probably kind of bizarre looking. That. So I think that's all for today. Thank you for joining me and putting up with me. And Tim's back next week and for a long time after that, so it'll be him. So bring your super hard questions next week and try and stump Tim. And we'll see you again in the future.